You're listening to a GWP weather update. It's Thursday, April 16th, 2026, and in today's weather update, we're going to be updating you on the upcoming severe weather that we're going to be dealing with going into tomorrow. But we've also got a few storms out there right now, and so we're also going to look at that. So, first, we'll go ahead and start off by looking at our national weather alerts from the National Weather Service's National Weather Alerts. And so, you'll notice that we do have severe thunderstorm watches across Arkansas, and even our southern counties are currently under that watch as well. So we do have some severe storms out there across southern Missouri, getting into Kentucky and Tennessee, and then also a few severe storms across New York, where things have been pretty active the last couple of days. We have a bit of a break in the action across Wisconsin and Michigan, where we've now had 3 days in a row of tornadic activity across that region. We've also had lots of heavy rainfalls. That's why we've got all the flood alerts at this point in time across that region as well. And then, kind of on the flip side of that, we have red flag warnings on the western side of the dry line. And so that fire threat has been ongoing across Texas, Oklahoma, western Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, as well as into Minnesota. And then we even have some winter precipitation going on across North Dakota and Minnesota. A lot of that has actually been ice across those areas. So not a huge concern, but still something that we are watching for. High wind alerts across Wyoming. It's also been windy here today, once again, in the state of Missouri. So we've been watching that very closely. And then even some freeze alerts for some areas that don't typically see below freezing temperatures or just haven't seen so in quite some time. So a lot of people may have already began gardening and everything. And so now they're going to have to take precautions for those that have done that in those regions. So that's what our different alerts are. Again, we're going to focus in on this severe thunderstorm watch. This does go for southern Missouri until 9 p.m. this evening. Large hail is going to be our main concern, but some gusty winds and tornadoes are going to be possible. Now, this is mainly along and south of Interstate 44, but earlier this afternoon, we did have a few strong to even low-grade severe storms that made their way through this area. So again, along Interstate 44, we do have that marginal risk for severe weather. Again, some damaging winds and some large hail. That's going to be the big threats. But the good news is that the majority of severe weather in the state of Missouri was earlier today. And so we're not going to have to deal with very much over the next few hours, but still something that we're going to be watching for. We also had some heavy rainfall, so that did give us some flash flood warnings across the region. We've got flash flood warnings in Jefferson City, all the way down to just to the northeast of Eldon along US 54. And then we got a couple of other flash flood warnings as well, further to the south of that, just to the north of Rolla, north of Interstate 44. So again, a few flood alerts from some of these storms. Again, you'll notice that we do still have those severe thunderstorms in the southeastern portion of the state, but the majority of the activity has moved out of the region at this point in time here in Missouri. But then as we go into tomorrow, we're once again going to have another day of severe thunderstorms, and this will likely be the highest threat that we have all week for severe thunderstorms. We are in, for the most of the region, is under a level 3 out of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center on our severe weather outlook tomorrow. So we've got an enhanced risk across the orange. Again, that's a 3 out of 5 on that severe weather index. And then along Interstate 44, the threat is a little bit lower, but it's still decently kind of high in comparison to what we've had the last few days. We're in that slight category across the yellow, and that includes Joplin, Monette, Springfield, Lebanon, and Rolla. But everywhere north of those areas, north of Interstate 44 tomorrow, the SPC is highlighting us under that enhanced risk. We have a very high chance of seeing thunderstorms, so I think everybody will see rain and thunderstorms. It's just a matter of where those storms are going to set up. Again, that highest severe potential will be along and northwest of Interstate 44 for the most part. We're looking at large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes, so all modes of severe weather will be in play, including some heavy rainfall, so we could be looking at some flooding, a few areas looking at the possibility of getting over an inch of rainfall just within a few hours. So again, most areas around an inch, but localized areas of 2 to 3, maybe even 4 or 5 inches are going to be possible. So it's going to be very wet as we go into Friday night. So if you have any plans, just be aware that they could be disrupted by these severe storms. You don't necessarily need to cancel all of your plans right now, but you definitely need to have a backup plan in case things don't necessarily work out. I know, for example, here in Columbia, Mizzou softball was scheduled to play against I believe, South Carolina tomorrow night at around 6 o'clock. That game has now been moved back to 12 o'clock. So again, you might have to move around some plans. The timing on everything might need to be adjusted for the severe weather threat as we go into tomorrow. So just make sure that you consider that as you go into your daily activities for Friday. So again, here's that enhanced risk. It goes all the way from Oklahoma into Illinois and Wisconsin. So some of the same areas across the Great Lakes, once again, are going to be impacted by this. The highest tornado potential is going to be to our north across Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin, but we are still in that 5% category and we are in the hatched area, meaning the EF2 tornadoes are going to be stronger. The areas highlighted in yellow are also under that second intensity scale where EF3 tornadoes are stronger are going to be possible. But again, a few EF2 tornadoes across the state of Missouri as we go into tomorrow. We also have a particularly high wind risk. We are in that 45% category across our northwestern counties around Kansas City and northern Missouri. That's where we could be looking at the possibility of some very strong winds. We are talking about upwards of 75 to 85 mile per hour wind gust. So that's category one hurricane force gust are going to be possible out of some of these storms as we go into tomorrow. So wind is going to be a really big threat. And then hail, especially west of Interstate 49, we're in that 30% category. Everybody else in Missouri is still in that 15% category. So hail is going to be at risk. And we are also under the hatched area for 2-inch or greater hail. So hail could be upwards of teacup size, maybe even close to softball size hail, but probably closer to tennis ball size hail. Winds are going to be around 70 to 75 miles per hour, but a few areas could see winds of up to 80 or 90 miles per hour. And then again, a few stronger tornadoes, in addition to the weaker ones, are going to be possible as we go into tomorrow. So again, you will want to make sure that you have a plan in place for the severe weather as we go into tomorrow. This is going to be during the afternoon and evening hours from about 4 p.m. to midnight. That's going to be our window when we're going to be dealing with the severe storms. And so for that reason, that will be our window for when we will be doing our live stream. Again, we'll periodically, as needed, be doing a live stream before 4 or from 4 p.m. tomorrow until midnight Saturday. So during that 8-hour window, we will have live streams here on GWP covering tomorrow's severe weather threat. So, as we mentioned, for today, we do have those storms. So, marginal risk for flooding across the areas where we're going to get the rain. We've already seen the flooding, but the flood threat is going to increase as we go into your Friday. This is from the Weather Prediction Center, their day two outlook. So, this is your Friday outlook showing that all of us are under that 15% category. And here's something else that I do want to point out here about this risk is it's very well possible that the risk may increase just a little bit. And of course, if that does happen, then we will keep you updated on that. But again, there's a possibility the risk could go up. It could also go down if the environment looks less favorable, but that is something to consider. This forecast is not locked in place. We will have kind of a more finalized idea of what the forecast is going to be at around lunchtime tomorrow, around 11:30, around 12 o'clock. The Storm Prediction Center, they update their severe weather outlooks at 11:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time, and usually that's when we see a lot of changes. Sometimes they'll make a few more adjustments in the afternoon and evening, but most of the time, if they're going to make any big changes, it happens around 11:30. And so we'll keep you updated on those changes as they come in from the Storm Prediction Center. And of course, you can also go to spc.noaa.gov/products/outlooks to find their severe weather outlooks as they update. Again, they update them at 11:30 in the morning. That's really their big update that they have throughout the day. So if you want to keep track of that progress, if you want to check in on that at 11:30 a.m., then you might want to do that. Also, sometimes the maps are released a few minutes early. Sometimes they're released a few minutes late. So that's just kind of a general ballpark as to when they are usually released. From what I've seen, usually they are not released any more than 10 minutes before or after the designated time. So just be aware of that as we go into that. So severe weather threat will continue into Saturday, but it's going to be east of here. So no threat as we go into Missouri. Friday afternoon and evening, that's going to be the main timeline for us with our severe weather threat. Once we get through tomorrow's threat after midnight, we will be done with severe weather for the weekend. We are going to cool off quite a bit because we have a cold front moving in Friday night as well, in addition to our storms. So that's going to cool us off for the weekend. Highs around 60 on Saturday. They'll warm up pretty quickly as we go into the early part of next next week, but we will notice a change in temperatures going into this weekend. No severe threat over the weekend, and then no severe weather threat early next week. Late next week is still a little bit in question. All right, well, that is it on this weather update. We will keep you updated. Stay alert, stay informed, and yeah, have a great evening.